It's Fully Threaded Radio, episode 189.
There's really no such thing as a brute fact when it comes to these things, right? Everything has a context. There's no nuance, there's nuance to things that you don't know whether that's going to be conveyed. For example, with ChatGPT, when it was first released, you could ask it how to commit the perfect crime. It would tell you, right? They had to build ethics into it. And so that's the question, whose ethics? And what are those rules and who's deciding that? I mean, these are very big questions that need to be grappled as we have this very powerful new technology. In terms of the business applications, I think that the biggest question there is going to be, or the biggest thing that I think people need to understand is,
we were at a kind of a crossroads, and I'm a big believer that the good Lord shows the way, and we were introduced to Elios and Dan and his team, and it was for a reason and for a purpose.
It's time for Fully Threaded Radio.
It is Fully Threaded Radio, voice of the FCH Sourcing Network. This is the online, on-demand, predominantly fastener-related podcast where the threaderati come to share the pulse of the fastener industry. So, if that's your keg of screws, you clicked on the right podcast, and we're so glad you did. Hi everyone, Eric Dudas with you, and I just returned from a short visit over to the Chicago area, which is the home turf of Fully Threaded co-host, the affable and always entertaining Brian Musker. Hey Brian, you doing all right?
I'm not sure I'm always that affable, actually. Sometimes entertaining. And following you back to Cleveland, I'm over in Cleveland now, so I'm nowhere near Chicago.
Yes, welcome to semi-rural Northeast Ohio, Bri. I hope we get some good, little bit of work in perhaps, and maybe a little fishing, little farming, little of everything.
All of that, okay. The maybe isn't quite here because we've been on the working already.
Yes, it seems like it never ends sometimes, but hey, we got to keep supporting the fastener industry, which is what we will do on this episode 189 of Fully Threaded Radio. Once again, thanks for clicking in, everybody. We're going to try to get this one out on or about June 18th, 2023. And it's yet another jam-packed episode, chock full of news, commentary, infotainment, etc., spanning a wide variety of fastener-related topics. The feature today is going to be quite timely indeed, I think, as long as you've been paying attention to headlines in pretty much any sector of media these days. That's the subject of artificial intelligence, AI.
Oh, that'll be interesting, okay.
Yeah.
It's like a can of worms. You ready to open that one up?
Oh, a big one. So, by the way, folks, this episode of Fully Threaded Radio is completely organically produced, so handcrafted and lovingly presented for you. But as we will hear from AFC Industries CEO Kevin Godin, AI is actually being used in the fastener industry as we speak. And of course, that trend is growing. If you didn't know that, or perhaps you did, and you're wondering how else you can be leveraging this new technology, today's feature segment is going to be quite interesting for you. Ahead of that, we'll kick things off today with a conversation with BTM Manufacturing's head honcho, Jake Davis. He'll be joined by Dan Smith of Elios Coffee. Now, many of you know U-Bolt Blend Coffee. If you've been to any of the shows, or frankly, if you do business with BTM, you've had a cup or two of U-Bolt Blend. I know I've had my share. Well, we're going to get the inside scoop, and you'll find out exactly what's behind Elios. Their agenda is much bigger than just coffee, as you will hear during this conversation. I think you'll be impressed.
So is Jack going to tell us how he rides around on his donkey in the coffee fields? Coffee plantations?
Yes, the Valdez name does come into the conversation, Bri. Don't worry.
Oh, good. I'm glad about that.
Yeah, I did the intro wrong, right? I should have said Jake Valdez Davis. Yeah. Everybody knows that.
Right.
On the Fastener News Report today, Tim Roberto Jr. of Star Stainless joins Mike McNulty. The FDI was a little less than stellar again last month, everyone, and Tim and Mike take a look at all of that. And as if all this isn't enough, I ran into GHIII and Bob GQ Baer at a meeting of the Naperville Fastener Association. We gathered a few folks together ahead of the NFDA summer conference there in Chicago. So while we were all gathered together, we took the opportunity to look forward to the upcoming mud race in August. That, of course, with the MWFA Fastener Week. GQ and GH3 riff on that a little bit and warm up Mike McNulty. And on the Fastener Training Minute, Fastener Professional of the Year, Carmen Vertullo, asks the question, is hydrogen embrittlement reversible? And if so, should you be doing that? That's a new one, huh, Brian? Another wrinkle in the HE saga.
Right. I mean, it gets to a certain stage, it's reversible. By the time the bolt's cracked, it's not that reversible, is it?
Yeah, well, that's probably true. But he's going to take a look at, in those cases where you can do it, should you do it?
Okay.
You thought you might get away with an episode without a mention of the scourge of the industry? Oh, no.
Oh, how you were mistaken.
That's right. Well, it's all coming up ahead. Again, all handcrafted by us for you, the fastener industry, and made possible by a fine list of partners. Brian, that's your department. Please take it away.
Right. The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Brighton Best International, Gerbil Fasteners, and Star Stainless Screw Company. Brighton Best International, tested, tried, and true. Gerbil Fasteners, quality the first time. Star Stainless Screw Company, right off the shelf. Also sponsoring Fully Threaded Radio are Buckeye Fasteners, BTM Manufacturing, Eurolink Fastener Supply Service, InSequel Software, J-Land Franco, Parker Fasteners, 3Q Inc., Volt Industrial Plastics, Worth Industry North America, and Solution Industries, home of Solution Man. So think of these sponsors next time you're trying to find some fasteners, okay? Think of them first. That's how you pay them back.
We're always interested in your questions, comments, and suggestions, so please let us know. The email address is ftr@fullythreaded.com. And if you're looking for hard-to-find fasteners or you need a fill-in, something didn't come in on time, get out to fastenersclearinghouse.com. That's the FCH sourcing network. Well, a moment ago, I mentioned that Carmen Vertullo is the Fastener Professional of the Year. He received that award at the NFDA meeting this week in Chicago and had a chance to attend just the very beginning of that event. Very well attended. And once again, congratulations to you, Carm. Nobody's more deserving.
And anyone who's been listening to at least the last 100 episodes of Fully Threaded will realize why Carm's so deserving of this, because he has spent 100 episodes giving us the Fastener Training Minute.
Thank you. Yes. So I was just going to jump into that. On Monday, a group of us met out in Naperville, Illinois, which is a west suburb of Chicago, many of you know, and we celebrated the 100th episode of the Fastener Training Minute. There's a great photo. George Hunt III popped that out there on LinkedIn, and it might be elsewhere, but thanks to everybody who came out and made that a very special night for Carmen. So what a week for Mr. Vertullo.
And it was a great evening, actually, at the so-called Naperville Fastener Association, which is a rather loosely organised group.
So-called.
Organised mainly by Bob Baer, but sometimes by the travelling salesman. It just depends.
The list of members of the Naperville Fastener Association continues to grow. As a matter of fact, after we got together, I saw some emails flying around, and they were trying to make sure that we've got a comprehensive list of all the people who have shown up to these meetings over the years. It's getting pretty big.
Yeah, and it sort of depends, because not everyone happens to be in or around Naperville, but it's a fun little night out.
A very inclusive group. All you have to do is be somewhat connected to the fastener industry and like to have fun.
Right. And it doesn't necessarily involve lots of discussion about fasteners. It might be about someone telling me where I can take my car. It was Bob Baer, where I can take my car to get it repaired, and all sorts of other things like that. All useful stuff.
And on the subject of the growing membership roles, Jim Degnan of S.W. Anderson was also in attendance at that meeting. And we'd like to congratulate him as well, because this week he was elected as the newest president of the NFDA, the National Fastener Distributor Association.
Right. Well, he kept that rather quiet, actually, during the meeting.
Right. Well, he's a modest guy, but we're looking forward to talking with him. And as a matter of fact, we should have him on episode 190 of the podcast, and he'll give us a glimpse of what he has in mind for the NFDA during the coming year.
Right.
And during the coming podcast, we've got a lot going, so we're going to cut it right here, hear from a couple of our sponsors, and we'll be back in just one moment. Thanks again for clicking in, everyone. It's Fully Threaded
Radio.
These guys aren't screwing around much. Brian and Eric, Fully Threaded Radio, Internet Talk Radio for the fastener industry.
Brighton Best International stocks one of the largest and most diverse lines of construction, industrial, safety, and consumable products in the world through our preferred Ironclad and U.S. Anchor brands. We are committed to providing high-quality products to help get the job done right. Ironclad gloves are the industry leaders with more than 100 task-specific, high-quality PPE gloves covering cut, impact, cold, heat, water, abrasion, grip, and dexterity, receiving the 2018 Occupational Health and Safety Award for New Product of the Year. With our trained sales team members, competitive pricing, 20-plus national warehouses, and next-day service to all major population centers, BBI is committed to bringing quality, innovation, and safety to each and every job site.
Goebel Fasteners has consistently increased its stock inventory in Houston, Texas, as well as focused on developing new, innovative battery-powered cordless tools to improve industry efficiency. Our company's strategy is to provide a level of quality and innovation that stands out among the rest. If you are interested in being part of a brand that is revolutionizing the industry, make sure to contact Goebel Fasteners today to see what we have to offer. Goebel Fasteners, the leading rivet source.
Stainless Dan here, coming to you from Star Stainless. Star quality is more than products, just the way Wayne wanted it to be. It's simple. We're Star.
This is Holden Lewis of Fastenal, and you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Nothing artificial about it. Brian and Eric back with you for another episode of predominantly fastener-related talk radio. Fully Threaded.
Right.
It's great to have you out here, Bri.
Well, it's good. I like the Cleveland area. I mean, I like Cleveland as a city.
Well, we're nowhere near the city, and we're going to prove that tomorrow when we get out to Shagbark, and I got a couple projects for you. Don't worry, though. I got a brand new pair of ironclad gloves waiting for you, so you won't hurt yourself while you're moving the chicken pen around.
Good. Okay. I have had plenty of uses for ironclad gloves myself, actually.
Oh?
Well, I had to go out and hack a path through some bush to get to a river, and I went out there and within like the first 10 feet realised I'd ripped my hands to pieces on the native or wild roses, so I had to run back to the car and get my gloves and finish the rest of it because it was about 250 yards we had to cut through.
Oh, yeah, those rose bushes are brutal.
Oh, it's terrible. Anyway, but I salvaged everything.
Now, was this a fishing thing you were doing?
No, it's a thing. We'll get to it later. Lynn and I volunteer on a thing to measure the macroinvertebrates in the rivers and around Illinois.
Macroinvertebrates.
Little bugs.
Yes.
Yeah. So we've been doing the same site. It's in the Joliet Arsenal. It was handed over to the forestry department. And when it was handed over, the rivers were basically so poisoned that fish couldn't live in them. But now, 40 years later, we've been doing our site for 12 years. When we started, you never saw fish, and now this last year we had bass swimming around our site.
That is fantastic. So you and Lynn are volunteering, and you're doing all the stream monitoring and you're wearing waders and ironclad gloves. You have any photos of this? This sounds like a great marketing opportunity.
Well, it's not really fastener related, which is why there's no photos anywhere about it. We do have plenty of photos.
Well, you think beaver hunting is?
Actually, the river we monitor was nicknamed the Purple River because the process of manufacturing TNT, they just dumped all the stuff in the river. Everything was left over. And
right.
But over the years and years, it's gradually healed itself.
Yeah, we did some pretty hideous things to the rivers around here, too. Everybody knows the legend of the Cuyahoga catching on fire. I mean, I moved here and told people that I live near the headwaters of the Cuyahoga. Believe me, like everybody I talked to told me that story.
Right. Well, the Chicago River was like the same. It used to bubble.
Right. Well, keep up the good work, Bri. We've got, I think in that vein, a segment coming up here now with Jake Valdez Davis, and Dan Smith of Elios Coffee. That is another example of the fastener industry out there in the world doing good work. It folds right into this.
Yeah, it does. Well, his work is much more good than ours, okay?
Well, I'm not going to get in an argument with you, Bri, about the intensity of your virtuosity. No, rather, I think we should just cut over to this segment right now. What do you think?
Right, yeah.
Thanks again for listening to Fully Threaded Radio, everybody. Here's the backstory of U-Bolt Blend Coffee, the flagship beverage of the Fastener shows and BTM Manufacturing. Thus far in the podcast, hopefully you found it a little eye-opening in terms of the AI stuff we've been mentioning. Wait till you hear what's coming up. But right now, an expert in eye-opening, it's Jake Davis of BTM Manufacturing. Everybody knows him for the wonderful U-bolts that he brings to the industry, along with, at least for the last 5 years or so, U-Bolt Blend Coffee. What would we do without it at the shows? You might have asked yourself, how does he do it? Well, along with Jake today, we've got Dan Smith of Elios Coffee. Gentlemen, welcome aboard.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate the opportunity. It's been wanting to do this for some time and just let Dan have an opportunity to be introduced to our wonderful world of fastener industry and consumers of the U-Bolt Blend Coffee. So we're just a pleasure to be here.
I tell you, ever since you've been bringing U-Bolt Blend, I have to say that I've enjoyed several cups, shall we say, over the years.
You're our most frequent our guest when we're able to have it at the shows. You're there when the show opens, and you're usually there around 12:30 or so as it's wrapping. At least the coffee portion is wrapping up, trying to get that last drop. We truly appreciate that, and we love to share it with you and all of our friends in the industry at the shows and events that we've been able to attend throughout the years.
Tell us how you came up with the idea for U-Bolt Blend and a little bit more about your partnership.
Sure. Just a kind of a unique thing with the purchase of BTM Manufacturing in 2013. Trade shows and associations were foreign, really, to myself. I kind of remember going to one maybe in Kansas City every so often. I certainly went to the national show in Columbus with my dad a few times, but in Vegas, of course. But to be an exhibitor was new, and honestly, it was around a conversation around a campfire with a gentleman named Ben Helt that Dan would know and actually introduced us. He had a small little coffee shop in Raytown, Missouri, and I just kind of was talking to him about the acquisition of BTM and said, man, I really want something at a trade show that nobody else gets. We've all do pens and koozies and everything, and they're great, but I just wanted something that was much, much different. And he kind of threw out, he goes, well, what about coffee? And I was like, I don't, what are you talking about? Like serving it or, and he's like, well, all of the above. And so he was just a small, like I said, small coffee house, suburb of Kansas City. And long story short, me and another coworker had went over for a cupping, which is somewhat of a taste testing and kind of stumbled across what we now call our U-bolt blend. And the thing with Ben kind of went up in the world of coffee, has traveled all over the world in his profession. And then the gal that had bought his coffee house actually wasn't really interested in the roasting and that. So that's where, in order to kind of keep it going and succinct, he introduced me to Dan and the team at Elios. And it's been, like I said, pun intended, a heavenly match for us in the aspect of what we've been able to continue to do, the other products that we've been able to expand upon, and then just help them out with their business and support their coffee house and their overall vision for it. And here we are.
Yes. I like how you foreshadowed a little bit there, Jake.
Just a tad.
Dan, tell us, what makes the perfect cup of coffee? You're the expert here.
Oh, well, first of all, again, thanks for having me. And it has just been a great ride to this point with Jake, and we look forward to just continuing on. But yeah, I tell you, being in coffee is just so much fun, just because you get to see a full circle of a product. We have a couple of partnerships here in Kansas City with some importers, and they give a lot of attention to what's going on in the growing regions of the world, which you probably know you can't really grow coffee here in the States. It's got to be a lot closer to the equator. So we've got importers that bring in just some great coffee from Central America to some of the African countries, as well as some Asian areas. And we just try to keep the quality of the green or the unroasted coffee as high as we can, because, as you know, you got to start with a really good product in order for it to end up as a good product in the cup. And then we just look at the ways the coffee is processed at the farm, and then how it's shipped, as well as then we take a lot of care in how we roast it. And then hopefully we have allowed that bean to just kind of present itself as it was, as it desires. So we don't try to force a flavor or a profile. We try to find what that particular bean, I guess you'd say, wants to be, because some coffees are a little bit more fruity, some are more nut, some are spice, and so we try to develop profiles that really make the bean shine, and so that when you take it home and throw it in your grinder and make a cup of coffee, it's just really a special experience.
So I'm not surprised. It starts with a quality bean. And now you mentioned South America or Central America, I believe you said. And I know that North Colombia, I believe, is where the Valdez branch of the Davis family hails from. But I don't want to divert the conversation.
That's our main contact. Yeah.
So in the fastener industry, we have hydrogen embrittlement, which is kind of the scourge of our end product. Is there a problem that you typically run into with the beans? I mean, is there like a coffee bean vole or something that messes it up you want to avoid? What's the big hazard to avoid in the coffee business?
Yeah, so fortunately, we don't have to keep a close eye on that kind of thing. The importer is working really closely with the growers to help protect the crops, and we are committed to organic growing through our importers. They are very committed to organic. Not everything is certified organic, because that certification process can be very, very expensive. And so we're trying to also support smaller farms and that kind of thing. So kind of long way around, the answer is that there are some different types of not only insect damage, but also different molds and stuff that can get into crops and create some damage. And so, yeah, farmers and the importers are constantly keeping an eye on how to make sure that those coffee trees are protected. And then beyond that, there's careful attention in shipping it, because we discovered actually that there were some certain lots of coffee that had picked up just some little, I guess, stowaways of just some little insects that had gotten into the burlap of the coffees, and so once it got here to the States, then we had to deal with that and kind of send it back. So, you got to keep a close eye on it to make sure that the quality is preserved.
Eric, I've heard a couple things here in Dan's last couple minutes, but two of them very fastener related. Certainly quality of the bean aspect of it, and then I just found it funny, the lot traceability that we know is so important to all of us fastener people out there, in the aspect of it. There's crossover there. So Dan, would you say I think Eric and I would probably agree with this, but the scourge, in my opinion, would probably be cream. Putting that in just a classic U-Bolt blend, a cup of black coffee.
Oh man, you're exactly right. That
do you look down on those type people?
Oh, well, we're just called to love everybody, right? No matter what.
Absolutely. Yes.
But we are working so hard to keep that cream and sugar out of the coffee.
Far, far away.
Far, far away.
Well, I am looking at the Link magazine article that appeared. We talked about this in the setup for this segment, and you mentioned that you've got K-Cups, and of course, myself being a big fan of U-Bolt at the shows, I'm hoping for maybe next time at Vegas, Jake, that you also have like the IV bag edition. That would be convenient. But
you know what? I will look into that. You see me out on the strip.
Yeah. But jumping back to this article, I have to tell you guys that I was very, very pleased to read the tone of this story, and you're doing good work. Let's just say it that way, and I'll let you expand on it. But I commend you both for sharing your faith through your activities together here. And Jake, why don't we take that a little further?
Sure. No, I kind of mentioned it earlier, kind of pun intended. We were at a kind of a crossroads, and I'm a big believer that the good Lord shows the way, and we were introduced to Elios and Dan and his team, and it was for a reason and for a purpose. And there are so many, as we've all seen in the last 10, 20 years, how many, when I was in college also long ago, there might have been one or, Starbucks around or coffee house and this or that, but there's so many now that the aspect of just if I were to go back to town where I went to school, you'd probably have 8 to 10 just little coffee houses. And this is kind of what we have in Elios, but the vision and the mission and the values of the company is what draws me to partner with them. And I could easily say I do business with Elios. I am a customer of theirs, kind of more on the bulk side, as you say, but it's not transactional. There's depth to it, and the aspect of kind of what they do with the dollars and cents that they make on the product, on the U-Bolt blend, the coffee, the K-Cups, and the rub, is how they're spreading that throughout the community. And that is the value that I kind of just wanted to briefly share with our fastener audience, just to let them know that when they enjoy it and when they need more, they're helping serve a community, albeit, not being from the KC area and all over our reach. Fortunately, has been all over the United States with the shows and associations BTM's a part of. So that is, it's great. As you well know, Eric, it's great to do business with great people. It's really fascinating to do business with like-minded people and people of a deep faith. And I've seen that in action myself, with being either going over there just to kind of catch up or attend a Bible study or just to support them in the community. We're going to try and partner with Dan this upcoming fall to help them out. And so it's been a great, like I said, great partnership, and we're just thrilled where we're at and so happy that our friends in the industry continue to enjoy and support the U-Bolt Blend branding.
Now, in this story, it talks about how you're providing a culture of goodness, and you do a variety of things with that culture. And I'll just say that for people who want to get a little bit more information about Elios, they can go to elioscoffee.com, which is spelled ELEOSCOFFEE, so elioscoffee.com. And Dan, fill in a few blanks for us. What exactly are you doing at your coffee house there in Northeast Kansas City?
Yeah, thanks. And yeah, we just so appreciate Jake's partnership in this. Really, we want to see community transformation. Northeast Kansas City, Missouri is an area of the city that is just very profoundly economically depressed, and there's a lot of homelessness. And so we deal primarily with homeless people that are caught in addiction, as well as being trafficked. And we've found that there are so many people that are in desperate situations that have had just horrific pasts with lots of abuse and difficulty, and just find themselves in a place where they think, this is all that can be. And so we are trying to connect with those folks. We spend a lot of time on the street, try to connect with them, invite them into the coffee house, and to be a business that welcomes people in. And I think that typically coffee houses are extremely relational. And so that's one reason that we decided to have a coffee house and not just be a roasting company, but to have a coffee house that could be a welcoming space to have everybody in. And so it really is a place where worlds collide. And sometimes that creates a lot of havoc and difficulty, because people will come in high or drunk or in a very dysfunctional place. But they always know that they will be loved, and that we will hopefully demonstrate what God's love looks like, as well as just give them the good news of God's love that He demonstrated to us in Jesus. So on a daily basis, we have a community gathering. That's a community Bible study at 10 a.m. Every day we're open. We're open Tuesday through Saturday. And at that 10 a.m. Bible study, just lots of relationships are formed so that we can get to know people, get to know their situation, and whether it's help them get their ID so that they can then take the next step, or help them find emergency shelter, or get them to detox, or get them on a path toward acquiring housing. Whatever it is, we try to meet them right in the process of where they're at, to help them transition into just healthy living. And so at that Bible study, we offer free coffee, and it's the same coffee that we would serve in the, like on the coffee house side of our space, where people are coming in just to work on laptops and have meetings and stuff like that. So we serve free coffee at the Bible study, as well as a little bit of food. And then throughout the year, we provide a variety of resources. Wintertime, it's going to be blankets, hats, coats, gloves, socks, and things like that. And then we provide community events as well, so that our parking lot can be transformed into a safe place where the community can come and just have fun, just to be together in a healthy environment. So we're desiring that Elios just be kind of a catalyst for community transformation, working with the local Chamber of Commerce and working with other groups there in Northeast. And so we love that God has allowed us to be in that area. It's been a very difficult 12 years, but we're very thankful for the opportunity, and we're deeply grateful for Jake and BTM for their just willingness to partner with us, because that's what we need as people purchase our coffee or make donations to our entity. We are able to continue to try to reach these folks that are in desperate situations.
Well, thank you for that, Dan, and thank you for the good work. I think there's quite a few people in the audience who, again, coming back to the eye-opener analogy, have just had their eyes open to a lot, and you've probably inspired a few people as well. I happen to know that there are others who are involved in the coffee business who are in the fastener world, and maybe you're giving a few ideas, so your message is spreading.
Well, we appreciate that.
Just not our secret recipe, Dan.
That's right. Nope. I tell you, that U-bolt blend, that's Loctite.
Dan, what would you say? What's your go-to? I mean, if you had a, kind of just getting back to the coffee aspect of it,
Yeah.
and I joke, but I've been over there at times, and you've kind of got me on, pour overs now, and before that it was Americano. But kind of what is Dan's, go-to one or two top coffee items, and then I've got a follow-up after you answer that.
Yeah, absolutely. The cool thing about coffee is that as you experience quality coffee and you develop your palate by keeping cream and sugar out of the way, you can really taste the differences from an African coffee as opposed to a Central American or Asian coffee. And one of our Asian coffees is it's an Indonesian coffee. It's from Sumatra. But my favorite is always going to be some of the African coffees. I, in particular, love Ethiopian coffees, a natural processed Ethiopian that just is very bright, tends to be a little bit more acidic or a little bit more sour than bitter, just is real fruit forward. So you might just taste kind of a fruit and nut basket, I call it, in the cup. But there are so many different processes and even a lot of different varieties of coffee. We recently served a Colombian geisha coffee that was just incredibly delicious, and it just had a lot of fruit in it. So, I tend toward those brighter, fruity coffees as opposed to some of the darker that lean more toward bitter, nut, and spice.
Okay. And second on my follow-up was coffee wasn't intended to be made as a cold brew or with ice. So is there any petition that we can sign to somehow end this aspect of? But well, I don't want to do that because I know it'll affect your business. But
I'm sorry to break it to you, man. But our cold brew is actually pretty popular. So we are thankful that we hear a lot of good feedback from our customers that we have what they say is one of the best cups of cold brew in the city. So we have to stick with it. And right now, we're using a Guatemalan coffee for our cold brew.
Next time I'm in there, I will take their word for it. You're going to have to remind me, and I'll have our next roundtable. I'll sit down and enjoy.
Awesome.
So
you got it.
And to the listeners, next time you're at one of the shows, BTM Manufacturing's got a table. Make sure you head over there, grab yourself a cup of U-bolt blend, because Jake usually makes it available for us, which is, that's a godsend right there, Jake.
Absolutely.
That's right.
No. And like I said, fastener industry, U-bolt blend, I firmly believe go hand in hand. The great thing with Dan is he doesn't stop. So, we were kind of at we kind of had went as far as we could with the bean and the whole bean in the ground, and we tried the candies, and it was just so labor intensive for them. And then he had introduced the steak rub, the U-bolt blend steak rub, and wanted to throw that at us. And we've just had great success with that and had a lot of great feedback on that. And not only, I'm also a customer myself when I've got the grill going. So, president, but I'm also a client type of a situation in that aspect of it. So who knows what's around the corner, but his brain's always going, trying to figure out what's next. And that's exciting for us in the partnership of what looks ahead.
Well, we'd expect nothing else with the amount of coffee he himself consumes,
You're probably right.
Well, we didn't talk too much about the process here in roasting or anything, but we could save that for another conversation. I do want to ask you one thing, though, before we wind down this conversation, and that is a little bit keeping in theme with today's episode. Dan, do you see AI creeping into the coffee business at all? Where might that be happening, if so?
Yeah, we've actually fully embraced it. Actually, I'm Dan's avatar, and he is at the lake right now. So, yeah, hopefully I've been programmed well.
Did real well.
No, in all seriousness, there's a lot of already, even though it's not necessarily AI, there's a lot of automation in the coffee world with, in particular, roasting, where you can enter profiles into an automated system. But for us, we've just continued to, just like our coffee house, we depend on the expertise of the barista. We like that organic type of approach to coffee, so you won't see a lot of automation on our coffee house side. Same thing when we roast. We're not using automation. We depend on the expertise of our head roaster, Vicky, and she does a fantastic job. So I know that AI is going to impact and affect, and who knows, maybe in the future we will embrace portions of it to help. But we like the hands-on organic approach.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah, it's. I think we all know what's coming. It just depends on what levels and where we see it at. But Vicky was even kind enough to let me roast maybe a couple years back, maybe pre-COVID, Dan. So, and the machine was still operational after my attempt. But
yes,
certainly an interesting process.
You didn't break it.
Nope, I did not.
There's a photo of Vicky along with you, Jake, and you, Dan, in the article there on Link Magazine. It happens to be on page 82 if folks are interested. And I'll repeat that the website for Elios Coffee, ELEOS coffee.com, and of course BTM Manufacturing, BTM-MFG.com. Jake Davis, Dan Smith, gentlemen, it's been great.
Always a pleasure, Eric. Thank you so much for the time.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been great to be with you guys.
My name is Ashley Parker. I am a member of the sales team at Parker Fasteners out here in Buckeye, Arizona. Parker Fasteners is a quality manufacturer of fasteners such as aerospace, military, commercial, and much more. They could be something that you put in a vehicle, in your eyewear, in computers, and much more. We actually just experienced a 40% growth just in last year. Here at Parker, we take pride in the quality of our product. Doing so, we want every employee to take pride in the product. So we take the time to show you, teach you everything there is to know about screws. It's actually kind of a fun industry. It's a growing industry. The possibilities are endless. Parker Fasteners is forging the future for many years to come, and I encourage you to be a part of that.
We all know this is about winning the war on notebooks. We can't do that without the ability to offer hard-to-find metric fasteners, manufactured to ISO and DIN standards. Delivered fast, faster, or as fast as your star-spangled man with a plan. Every quote you request, Eurolink fulfills. Help keep America's workers armed and ready with any metric fastener in the multiverse. With Eurolink, you get what you want when you want it. Eurolink, hard-to-find metric fasteners, delivered.
Precision, efficiency, durability. GHIII Franco has been a trusted name for the finest lock nuts worldwide and across North America for over 40 years. GHIII Franco keeps projects on track, on time, and on budget, providing self-locking lock nuts and critical bolting components for applications in aerospace, energy, military, rail, mining, industrial, and many other sectors where reliability and high performance are essential. Learn more about GHIII Franco online at www.jhiiifranco.com. GHIII Franco, lock nuts for critical bolted joints.
Hi, this is Dave, the voice of Buckeye Fasteners and Old Rusty Gold Beer, the preferred beer of the traveling salesman. And you are listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
And speaking of Threaderati, it's time for the news segment, and I've got a couple of members of that group right here with me. It's kind of an informal meeting of the Naperville Fastener Association. We're here to present Carmen with an award for the NFDA. That we'll have more on that later. That's not really the news. Here with me now, it's GHIII and GQ. Gentlemen.
Eric, how are you, buddy?
Doing good.
All right, thanks, Eric. Road trip, having us on a road trip. I like it.
You got it. Well, this is like old times. Naperville, we've had a few meetings here over the years. We're back, and we're warming up for the NFDA tomorrow and the next day. And, of course, our friend Carmen's receiving that award. But I don't know how what we're doing right now folds into our training for the mud race. Guys, what's going on here? What's your strategy, George?
Not a lot of strategy going on right now. A lot of carbs, a lot of fried foods, but good thing we're working out every single morning. Right, Bob? See?
I don't know about George, but I'm here learning how to balance a beer in one hand and a burger in the other.
All right, well, I'm sure we'll have it worked out because this is the third mud race we've got coming up, and you're really the organizers of this thing, and GQ, you're the godfather of this year's mud race. What's going on so far?
Well, we're headed back to the same location, and we've got a lot of people coming back. We're excited. A couple of newbies this year. If I'm not mistaken, we're up to 21 people registered. We're still in the recruiting stage, and there's still plenty of time to train for a 3-mile obstacle race. So this little recording session here hopefully will generate some additional interest. And I know there's social media out there. There's a hype video out there. There's a lot of information out there. If you want to do the race, by all means, get out on Twitter, LinkedIn, find us and get a hold of somebody. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, great job on that video. I saw that out on LinkedIn. And that's ruggedmaniac.com is the website if you want to see this. And, George, I think you picked the theme music for that video, didn't you?
I did, but unfortunately it wasn't my idea. It was actually Jake's. He was in my caravan last year, and he needed some hype music, let's just say. He just wasn't feeling it, and for some reason I looked over to him and said, we're about to go 5 miles, 25 obstacles long. You better get in the game. And he said, I need some pump-up music. I said, what pumps you up? He says a little Van Halen, and there you go. There you have it. There's our song.
Little Sammy, right. Well, it was a lot of fun. It's going to be great this year. And, gentlemen, I'm looking forward to, let's say, starting training right after this meeting. What do you think?
June, I think, well, July the latest, July 1. Right after the 4th, get your cardio going, get jumping some rope, a little bit of weights, and no worries. Our saying is no team member left behind. We will get you through every obstacle one way or another. It's a blast. You'll make relationships that you'll never replace or get somewhere else.
That's absolutely right. And we should probably say what the date is. This event is happening in connection with the MWFA Fastener Week, which is coming up in August. And we're grabbing the date on that. It's happening sometime in August.
August 19th. And Bob couldn't have said it any better. I'm telling you what, we went from 12 individuals to over 22. No individuals left behind. And don't get scared. I mean, come on board. It's about the camaraderie. It's about the team aspect. And I'm going to tell you what, distributor, competitor alike, supplier, it doesn't matter. Once you're part of this group, once you're part of this family, you will always have someone to go to and support and listen and just to have that mentorship. And it's a great event. So come on board.
Yeah, it's definitely a fraternity. Well, at that point, I'll mention that the Fastener News Report is brought to us today by Volt Industrial Plastics. And, of course, the title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Brighton Best International, Goebel Fasteners, and Star Stainless. Now, with regard to Brighton, we've got GH3 here, and I heard Rosa took a little spill there during your team building out there in Nashville. How's she doing? Is she off the crutches?
She did, unfortunately, and yeah, she is off, and she's on the mend, and she's doing a lot better right now, and it's great to have her back.
All right, well, that's good news. Hang tough, Rosa. You're a tough gal. Well, gentlemen, as mentioned, we're here to celebrate our friend Carmen's award for the NFDA. We'll have more on that on a future episode, but this is great that we were able to come out tonight and have the Naperville Fastener Association give them a little pat on the back also.
I totally agree. Carmen's friends and buddies came out. Some of them came from downtown all over to celebrate with him. Some of us can't be there tomorrow, unfortunately. But these are very exciting times. And, of course, we're thrilled to have this stuff going on in Chicago. In August, following the Rugged Maniac, we're going to be subject to a whole week of Midwest festivities, including the Build-A-Bed on Sunday, which actually is taking place at Abbott Interfast.
Right.
And Fastener Tech all week in Lincolnshire. There's the show, there's a mixer, there's golf outing. So put it on your calendar, come out a little bit early, do the race with the other rugged nuts, and hang around for Fastener Week.
RuggedManiacs.com. Well, that's coming up, but immediately coming up, you know what it's time for now.
Now is Screws About News You Could Use with Mike McNulty.
Was that it?
I think it was close. Hey, at a Naperville Fastener meeting, he was close enough.
Thanks, Bob and George. This is Mike McNulty from Fastener Technology International Magazine, bringing you the Fastener News Report, which is sponsored by Volt Industrial Plastics, makers of the world's finest plastic fasteners. The number of 2024 U.S. presidential candidates is now above the baker dozen mark. Canada's latest export is smoke. AM radio is in the crosshairs of EV makers. Artificial intelligence is a mystery. Transportation unions are rattling cages, and our bipartisan federal government leaders are smugly congratulating themselves for having cleared the way to feed their overspending and borrowing addiction for a few more years. But I am back home from Nashville, focused on fasteners, and ready to deliver today's Fastener News Report. In this episode, Tim Roberto Jr., Division President of Star Stainless Screw Company, joins us to reveal the latest results of the Fastener Distributor Index, also known as the FDI. Also in today's broadcast, we have our top story on STAFTA's new Excellence in Distribution program, as well as newsmaker headlines from AFC Industries, TFC, Precision Threaded Products, Camcar, Boomax, Century Fasteners, DB Roberts, ND Industries, Brighton Best International, and more. On the back page report, we're going to talk about Fastener Fair USA 2023. We'll get to all of that and the latest FDI results right after this.
When price is a big concern and you don't have high tensile strength requirements to worry about, ever think to yourself, why not plastic? Hey everyone, it's Heidi from Volt Industrial Plastics. Next time you need to find a solution that requires keeping costs as low as possible, give Volt a call and put our team of skilled customer service representatives to work for you. Plastic fasteners can make sense on a wide range of applications that you might not have considered before and provide your customers with big savings. So the next time you have trouble with price and delivery, just think, why not plastic? From everyone here at Volt Industrial Plastics, thanks for another great year. And you know the website, it's voltplastics.com.
Since 1905, Buckeye Fasteners and the Ohio Nut and Bolt Company have been supplying the world with high-quality fasteners. Our standard product lines include weld fasteners, braided weld screws, leg levelers, self-clinching hardware, clevis pins, rivet nuts, and various other fastener lines, allowing us to support virtually all types of industries. BuckeyeFasteners.com. Buckeye Fasteners, more than just weld.
Solution Man, Ken.
Solution Man, you're my fastener hero.
Just doing my job, ma'am.
SOLUTION, SOLUTION. Solution Industry. We are Solution.
The Fastener News Report with Mike McNulty.
The seasonally adjusted Fastener Distributor Index for May 2023 dropped to 44.7, a continued weakening from the previous month's result of 46.3, and the fifth sub-50 result in the last 6 months. The forward-looking indicator, also known as the FLI, recovered a bit to 40.6 versus an all-time low result of 37.8 recorded in April, which was the 10th straight month of contracting FLIs. Fastener Distributor Index data is collected and analyzed by the FCH Sourcing Network and Baer. The FDI seeks to identify demand, pricing, and outlook trends within the American fastener distribution industry. To get some insight on these results, we talked to Tim Roberto Jr., the division president of Star Stainless Screw Company. Hi, Tim. Thanks for joining us on the Fastener News Report.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mike.
It's good to have you back. So what do you think about the latest FDI and FLI results?
Yeah, I hate to say, but there's no real big surprise there because it's similar to what we're seeing in the market. We're seeing just a mixed bag. You're seeing customers that are saying they're booked until first quarter 2024, and then you see others that are saying they're seeing a softening in other areas. And I think on the business side, there's a little bit of trepidation. I think there's almost a fear mongering going on. Is this idea that there's things to come, and so people are kind of batting down the hatches and they're buying for what they have to. They're afraid of over inventory. We saw what took place in the fourth quarter of 2022, and I think people are adjusting to that, and there's a fear going on, which is weird because we're not always seeing it on the consumer side. I mean, I've been flying a lot, and every plane's full everywhere I'm going. Hard to get hotels, hard to get rental cars. So there's still a lot of consumer spending, but I think it's more in the services. And there's a sense of like durable goods are going down. But if we look at like the April report from the U.S. Census, durable goods actually beat what the production was going to be. It said it was going to go down 1.1%. It actually went up 1.1%. And so we saw durable goods growing in March. We saw it growing in April. And so we're seeing good trends going on, but I think there's still that sense of fear. And I think that always drives this idea of what people do, is this idea of what's to come.
Yeah, they're acting on what they think might happen versus what's actually happening.
Correct.
So there was some, if we dive into the numbers, like the sales number went down and the customer inventories dropped while everything else increased except for the 6-month outlook, which we'll get to that in a minute. But the sales number dropped to 35.9, down from 43. And that's the lowest one that I'm looking at on my table here, the lowest one in 9 months. So it's not a good month for selling, I guess.
No, yeah, I think you kind of have a check, and I think it's also kind of hard in the midst of what we're going through on more of the macro level with the economy and especially money becoming more expensive. It's hard to continue to grow in that kind of an element, and I think that's exactly why you see some people pulling back on exactly what they're doing. They're buying. Overall, trends are going that way just because it's harder to get money.
Right. And like I mentioned just a moment ago, the customer inventories dropped a little bit down to 50.0 from 57.5, but then everything else went up. Unemployment went up. Unemployment improved. Respondent inventories increased slightly, as well as pricing increased month to month, just barely, but on year to year, it increased a lot. So that kind of ties into what you're saying about costs being higher.
Correct. And that, too, is a mixed bag because you got the steel world that prices are going up. Now you're starting to see freight that's starting to go up, especially on the spot rates of containers. But then on stainless, on our side, we're seeing actually prices that have come down year to year. So for where we were at last year, because of the crazy nickel world that we were in this time last year.
Like a big panic.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So we had, we'll get into the commentary in a moment here, but in general, some people talked about, declining new business opportunities and general softening in the economy, driving the month-to-month decline in sales. The thing that jumped out to me was the 6-month outlook really kind of, I think it kind of tanked. We have 11% of the respondents expecting things to be better 6 months down the road, 48% saying it'll be the same, and 41% saying it's going to be worse. And that's probably the lowest front-end number I've seen in a long time and the highest back-end number I've seen in a long time. So those two together, it's not really painting a rosy picture down the line. How much do you think is that reality or the fear mongering that you mentioned?
I think there's a lot of unknown. And I think that's the hard part is when there's an unknown, then you're going to be conservative, especially when things go on. And I think part of what we have is we have this outlook of what 22 was, 21, 22 was, now 23. And it's like overall 23, if you take out 2021, 22, 23 is overall still a pretty strong year.
Right.
But in respect to what we saw previous, it's like, well, this year's off, this year's not so good. And I think that's where a lot of that comes in, though. It's this idea of perspective.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. If you take those 2 years out, it's a pretty solid year, but everything, including the FDI numbers and the FLI numbers, are relative to the previous numbers. So that's
correct. Things
are lower, but it's still pretty good level. Good. Anything else you want to mention on the numbers before we jump into the respondent commentary?
No, I just think overall, I mean, you're still seeing, for us, what we see over across all the divisions, you still see busy work, and there's still work to be had, and you're hearing kind of this stuff going on. But I think it's not to the levels we've talked about before, where people are buying maybe in smaller quantities than what they've previously bought, but there's still buying going on, and I think there's still activity going on, and we're hearing still positives in certain segments, and where others are, you're starting to see a slowing down in other segments. And I think that's kind of where you see the mixed bag of overall results, because depends on what industry you're selling to, what your customers are telling the end users. We're seeing all over the board on what their predictions or projections are going to be.
Yeah, so it's good to be diversified in your customer base.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
All right, well, let's get into some of the commentary. I'll give some of these quotes that people wrote in who did the surveys. On the sales front, one respondent said that, quote, new business opportunities have been in decline for about 3 months or more. And then on the economy, another comment was, quote, mixed economic signals continue to push and pull our business. Unemployment rate continues to surprise, interest rates continue to rise, and our industry remains hard to predict, end quote. So it's kind of mirroring what you're just saying.
Yeah.
Then the topic of the recession, which has been the thing we've been talking about for a long time. Where's the recession, or when's the recession coming, and so on and so forth. We had some comments on that. One was, quote, while the expected recession hasn't hit, most of our vendors and customers and us believe it's inevitable, which sadly may make it a self-fulfilling prophecy, end quote. Another respondent said, quote, is a tricky time and has been going on for 2 years now. Uncertainty looking out has been very hard to make budgeting plans beyond 6 months. All indicators seem like we are in for a slowdown. It may finally be upon us, end quote. What do you think? Is it coming? Or
if I could fully answer that 100%, man, I would definitely be retired already.
Yeah, right.
No, I think for us, I think the one comment hits it on the nail. Is it almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Why? Because we're a consumer-driven economy, and as we lose confidence in that, we start to slow it down, and we almost create that to happen. If you look at the economic indicators, they've all still remained relatively positive. We're not seeing, outside of the tech world, we're not seeing the unemployment. We're still continuing to see spending going on. So we're seeing positive things go on in the economy, but people are just saying this is naturally going to have to happen. Why? Because interest rates continue to go up, and it's almost that slowing down of the economy that they think it's going to have to happen. And so it's inevitable. And I don't think it's necessarily inevitable. A slowdown is going to happen to check inflation. But at the same time, it doesn't have to be a recession that takes place for that to happen, for us to bounce back to that. So I think to sit there and say a recession has to happen, that's not necessarily true. But yeah, there is a slowing down that has to happen just to keep inflation in check. Just because, I mean, there was too much money to overspending. There was demand that was outpacing supply, and now we're kind of getting that back in check. But I mean, there's still a lot of business that is not been met. If you look at the census, there's still a lot of unfulfilled orders that are going on in the supply chain. And so for us, it means that there's still work and business to be had out there, but it's like, how are we doing that? Both supply chain, but also like being able to fill labor. I still hear people having a hard time finding labor and sustaining labor. Those are continuing to be issues, and those press against us. And so for us, those are our challenges that we have to face.
Yeah, I don't see the labor going away. I mean, I was at another conference where they were talking about labor issues, and the person who works in, the job placement was saying that, a big part of it's just the more people retiring than are entering the workforce, and that's not going to come undone.
No. and I think there was almost a mentality change after the pandemic that people looked at work differently. And so you had people that were willing to retire early because it was like they just want to enjoy life.
Right. All right. Well, those are bigger problems than we can solve here.
That is true.
Okay, and then the last comment, maybe was my favorite comment, was, quote, "Stop listening to the news. There is no recession. And business is solid. We're forecasting a steady position for at least 6 months," end quote.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be a whole segment of people that are in that camp that we're hearing from a lot of customers that are really busy and that they're seeing a good outlook. And I think it's all on perspective. It's what you're seeing, your customer base, and the things that are going on.
Right. All right, good. Well, that's it for the FDI and the FLI discussion. I want to give you a chance to tell us what's going on at Star Stainless Screw.
Yeah, Star's again moving ahead steady. We're continuing to build on momentum, building on the work with our divisions. Definitely been an educational moment for us, learning a lot more about the way things should be and continuing to see process improvement because of our work with Lindstrom and Stelfast, and just continuing to work together to build really a company that is responsive to our customers' needs. And I think for us, just the benchmarking of learning has been amazing. It's been just a great transition for us. Just continuing to build on that. We're looking again to bring new product to the market on what our offering is. We're looking for new ways of being able to do that. Hoping to be rolling out with e-commerce relatively soon, hopefully sometime in the summer, which is exciting for us. And so we're seeing a lot of positive things for Star. And so it's in my 32 years of working at Star, this is a fun time because we're seeing so much change and positive change that's going on.
Good to hear. Now, I know you guys were out in force, the whole group at Fastener Fair USA in Nashville, and I think I noticed some new that you guys were sporting some new shirts.
Yeah, I finally got my Linfast shirt. It had to be earned, though, Mike. That's what it was. It has to be earned. And so after this, I got my trial year under my belt. Now I have earned a Linfast shirt. No, it was good to all be in one booth. It was good to kind of listen to the stories of one another and talk to different customers on different perspectives of the divisions that they see. And as you heard from Eric, everybody came because of the great carpet that Dana got us.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was so soft. I think it was more comfortable than the mattress I slept on at the Hilton. So, but it was really good to be under one umbrella, one roof, for us all to be together. I thought was exciting, and we're going to continue to build on that momentum.
Yeah, good teamwork and fraternity and all that stuff.
Absolutely. It really does help to build the company that we want to be. The division that we are as Stars is working together closely with Lindstrom, Stelfast, Solution Industries, Fastener Fittings. It's exciting for us.
Yeah, you can help each other out and learn, take the good from each company and apply it to everybody.
That's exactly what we're looking to do.
Good. All right. Well, it's good to have you back on the show. It's been almost a year, so we look forward to your next time, whether it'll be a year or sooner than that. You're always welcome to come back on and give us your perspective on the industry and what's going on with Star Stainless.
No, I appreciate you reaching out. I appreciate you giving me a platform. Surprised that anybody's going to really want to listen to me, but I always appreciate the time you give, and especially what you do for our industry.
Well, thanks for joining us, Tim.
Yep. Take care, Mike.
That was Tim Roberto Jr. He's the division president of Star Stainless Screw Company. The FDI number for May 2023 was 44.7 versus 46.3 in April. Visit FDIsurvey.com to participate in the process and get a detailed PDF copy of Baird's monthly analysis. Now for today's top story on STAFTA's new Excellence in Distribution program. For the past 23 years, STAFTA, also known as the Specialty Tools and Fastener Distributors Association, has been a co-sponsoring association of the University of Innovative Distribution, also known as UID, held each March in Indianapolis. It's a 4-day management school for professionals in distribution and the supply chain. At the end of February 2023, the company managing UID terminated its contract, leaving the future of the program in limbo. Because of the value and the importance of this type of education, STAFTA unveiled its Excellence in Distribution School for all professionals in the construction and industrial space, including those that distribute fasteners. This new program will be held March 12th through 14th in Nashville, Tennessee, and it will include 2.5 days of quality education taught by experts covering key topics such as outside sales, branch management, human resources, profitability, warehousing, and inventory, as well as trending topics like AI. All companies in the construction and industry channel are encouraged to attend, not just STAFTA members. STAFTA's 2024 Excellence in Distribution sessions in Nashville will end at noon on Thursday, March 14th, allowing those that would like a diversion before heading home the opportunity to go on an optional tour of Jack Daniels in Lynchburg, Tennessee. STAFTA members will receive preferential pricing on the new program, but Excellence in Distribution will be open to all distributors, manufacturers, rep agents, general contractors, industry buying groups, and any professional who wants to learn and grow in their distribution career. Registration will open in late November, and a new Excellence in Distribution website is being created by STAFTA. Next up, today's Fastener Newsmaker headlines. In corporate news, AFC Industries acquired White Distribution and Supply, also known as WDS. TFC is opening a new service center in South Wales. Precision Threaded Products, also known as PTP, is now a certified supplier of HS4773 components to the Boeing Company. Senco opened its newly renovated global headquarters in Cincinnati. Camcar purchased the assets of its partner, T-Tap Drive. Lee S. Johnson Associates is the new IFE America sales representatives in the Midwest Atlantic region of the United States. And Boomax was selected to provide fasteners to the International Space Station. In personnel news, Century Fasteners Corporation hired Robert Botticelli as Director of Business Development. DB Roberts welcomed Rob Hernandez as Field Service Manager and David Peterson as Senior Vice President. Loopker Distribution announced the promotion of Steve Gilmore to Vice President of Sales, the appointment of Jason Ewing as Director of HR, and the promotion of Shawn Michaels to Inside Sales Manager. Acme Manufacturing appointed John Barrett as President and Chief Operating Officer. ND Industries promoted Humberto Avila to General Manager of its Dallas, Texas processing facility. Nick Wheeler is the new NSW Sales Manager at Brighton Best International in Sydney, Australia, and Paolo Pozzi, CEO of Agrati, was elected President of the European Industrial Fasteners Institute, also known as the EIFI. You can get details on all of these stories and more in Fastener Technology International Magazine and the Fastener News Report monthly newsletter, both available online at fastenertech.com. Now let's turn to the back page to talk about Fastener Fair USA 2023. Fastener Fair USA took place last month in Nashville, and I was fortunate to be in attendance. The final attendance numbers have not been released yet, but I can report that it was a great trade fair and an impressive venue filled with excellent exhibits, 2 international pavilions, one from India and the other from Taiwan, informative educational sessions, and many valuable networking opportunities, including the MWFA NCFA Golf Tournament, the North Coast Fastener Association's informal gathering at the Tequila Cowboy Bar and Grill on the eve of the show opening, and the well-attended and entertaining opening night networking party at the Country Music Hall of Fame, featuring excellent music from Tommy O'Keefe and his friends. Show floor highlights for me included interacting with hundreds of fastener people, checking out dozens of fastener exhibitors, attending a half dozen fastener industry presentations, seeing more than a handful of operating pieces of fastener making and processing equipment, and encountering Zero robots. Congratulations to the organizers, supporters, exhibitors, presenters, and attendees. The June-July 2023 issue of Fastener Technology International Magazine contains news and images from the show on pages 96 through 99, and more straight-from-the-show content will be published in the August-September issue of Fastener Technology International. Next year, Fastener Fair USA moves north to the shores of Lake Erie as it returns to the Huntington Convention Center in beautiful Cleveland, Ohio on May 22nd and 23rd, 2024. Based on the artificial intelligence buzz in Nashville, next year's staging could contain a few technology twists. But as far as I'm concerned, at this stage of the game, I can conclude the following about 21st century artificial intelligence. I am naive about it. I am confused about it. I am willing to learn more about it, and I will use it when appropriate and beneficial. But I think I will always prefer human intelligence and interactions over its artificial substitutes. This has been Mike McNulty of Fastener Technology International bringing you the Fastener News Report. Please send your news, pictures, comments, corrections, or complaints to me at mcnulty@fastenertech.com.
Goebel Fasteners has consistently increased its stock inventory in Houston, Texas, as well as focused on developing new, innovative battery-powered cordless tools to improve industry efficiency. Our company's strategy is to provide a level of quality and innovation that stands out among the rest. If you are interested in being part of a brand that is revolutionizing the industry, make sure to contact Goebel Fasteners today to see what we have to offer. Goebel Fasteners, the leading rivet source.
Howdy, Fastener friends. This is Jake Davis, president of BTM Manufacturing. Often I get asked to clarify our business capabilities. Do we manufacture U-bolts, studs, coffee, anchor bolts, stake rub, per print specials? Well, as most of you have come to find out, the answer is all of the above. We like to have some fun aside from our primary business of custom manufacturing bent wire and threaded products for customers all across the U.S. We partnered with a local Kansas City-based coffee roaster and dreamt up a line of U-bolt blend products, both coffee and a stake rub. Over the past several years, both products have come to fruition. They've become notorious at industry events. Haven't tried them yet? Reach out and we'll include a sample in your next order. BTM Manufacturing and U-bolt blend, the perfect match.
Cut the no quotes out of the equation. Eurolink is your go-to resource for uncommon and hard-to-find metric fasteners that others can't even quote. Contact the sales team at EurolinkFSS.com and get your hard-to-find metric fasteners delivered.
Well, hey everyone, this is Carmen Vertullo with the Fastener Training Minute, coming to you from the Fastener Training Institute and Carver Labs in beautiful El Cajon, California. Today's topic comes right out of a webinar that I'm getting ready to do with the Fastener Training Institute, and it's one of my favorite topics. The webinar topic is hydrogen embrittlement, which has lots of different facets and segments and nuances in it. But one of those nuances that is not often spoken about is this question, which actually came to me many years ago, and I answered it and solved it. And there's not very many people that know as much about this as I do because I actually have lived it. And the question is this: can you recover fasteners that have hydrogen embrittlement? In other words, once you've known because of a failure or a bad test that these parts have hydrogen embrittlement, they've already been plated, they've already supposedly been baked, can we fix them? And the answer to that question is yes, we can. And I know it because I've done it on more than one occasion. But there's a much more important question to answer than can we recover them? And that question is, should we recover them? When we return, I'll answer the should we recover them question.
At Worth, status quo isn't an option. Worth is a global supply chain solutions provider of fasteners, MRO, and safety products, along with value-added services like kitting and assembly, 3D printing, and engineering assistance. Find out what Worth can do for you at worthindustry.com.
Quality products, quality service, quality customers. That's 3Q Inc., a fastener distributor unlike any you've worked with before. With its unique remote managed inventory stocking programs, wide array of secondary service offerings, and wholly owned cold forming capability, 3Q Inc. has been supporting fastener distributors since 2008. 3Q offers a wide range of 100% American-made fasteners, including ITW SEMS lock washers, as well as specialty and imported parts. Give 3Q a call today to discuss your needs and experience 3Q quality for yourself. 3Q Inc. www.3q-inc.com.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Fastener Training Minute. This is Carmen Vertullo, and today we are talking about one of the nuances of dealing with hydrogen embrittlement in fasteners, and that is when we have a case of hydrogen embrittlement, we have all these screws here that we know are infected with hydrogen embrittlement. Can we do anything about it? Can we recover them? Well, the answer is yes, we can, and if you were on the other side of the segment, you know that the more important question is, should we recover them? It comes down to cost and risk. So first off, if it's a small lot of fasteners and they're easily replaceable, you probably want to find out why whatever you did didn't work before you go and make a new lot and plate them and bake them and test them. But if there's not a lot of money involved, then probably not, because it does cost some money to recover them. The other side of that question is there significant risk in recovering them? Well, I don't think there is. We can know that we've done a good job. And then thirdly, you may have a fastener that simply is irreplaceable, or at least in the time frame that you needed, it's irreplaceable. These were not off-the-shelf fasteners. They were specially made. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tell you about a case exactly like that. Well, actually, 2 cases exactly like that. Or the lot of product has very high value. In other words, you got $100,000 worth of parts you'd have to scrap if you don't find a way to recover them. So those are the questions basically to ask in the should we category. Is there significant financial incentive to recover them? Number one. Is there a need to recover them, even if it's not a lot of money because you can't replace them? They're irreplaceable. And then third, the appetite for risk. And that involves the customer as well. The customer might just very well say, hell no. And then you can't do much about that unless they're willing to be educated. But you can, in fact, do the recovery 100% safely. So let's do that in the context, or explain that in the context of a recent case that I had. And actually, this is a very simple case. I'm looking at these screws sitting on my desk right now, as a matter of fact. They're very small. They are M3.5. flat socket cap screws. Actually, I think they're Torx drive screws, 6 lobe. And they were made to property class 12.9. For what reason, I don't know. I will just tell you right now, there's no good reason to make small socket products at a 12.9 property class. That's way up there. Hardness is above HRC 39. Tensile strength is 1,000 megapascals. 1,200 megapascals. So we are in that hydrogen embrittlement danger zone. And then they were black zinc plated. Theoretically, they were baked. The cert says it. They were sent to me to do the hydrogen embrittlement test. They did not pass. And we have 2,000 screws that were specially made, and now they're irreplaceable, at least in the time frame that we had to replace them. So I said, would you like to try to recover it? Had a conversation with the distributor, talked to the end user, and they said, let's give it a shot. So essentially what we did was we simply rebaked these screws just as they were. This is the simplest option. We have an oven here, put them in the oven, 400 degrees. We gave them 30 hours at 400 degrees, retested them, and they were fine. So we recovered that lot. Now, the downside of that is you could possibly damage the zinc plating. Actually, it's not the zinc you're going to damage. It's whatever the top coat is, which is probably some kind of trivalent, hexavalent, chromate, or something else. It turns out that those coatings can withstand that temperature, but they dry out. So once they rehydrate, that is, they're in the atmosphere, they're fine. If you wanted to take it one step further, you could do a simple corrosion test. You could take a few before rebaked screws and a few after rebaked screws and set them out in the weather for a little bit, or if you happen to have a salt spray chamber, or you could Mickey up some kind of a corrosive environment. And my experience is that we can do that. So that's the simplest method. Didn't cost a lot of money. You have another test you have to do. You have the baking, and we recovered that lot very nicely. Now I'm going to tell you about a more complicated case that happened several years ago. In that case, it wasn't that the screws were irreplaceable, but there was a large number of them, container loads of M5, M6, and M8 hex washer head machine screws with a hardened shaped washer. I'll just call it a conical washer for lack of a better word. And these washers had hydrogen embrittlement. The screws themselves were not HE susceptible. It was the washers because they were hardened. So when the parts were plated, theoretically they were baked. This was all done in an overseas location, very large country. I won't tell you which one. And we went over there, investigated the problem. It turned out that the plater did not possibly have enough capacity to bake all these screws based on the time in which they were plated, looking at their ovens. Even though it was a pretty large operation, we were very able to definitively figure out there was no way all of the screws were baked. there was also no way to know which ones were and which ones were not. We were able to do some lot testing and based on that, keep some lots, but we still had a very large number of screws that had to be adjusted. And in this case, what we ended up doing was stripping the screws, baking the screws, testing the screws, replating them, baking them, and retesting them. And we recovered quite a few tens of maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of product this way. And that was the process that the end user wanted us to go through to agree to being able to do this recovery. And we also had to have a plater who was willing to do this. And you can't do this at just any plater. This really had to be done at one of the larger automotive platers that have belt processes for baking and so on. And it took us about a month to do it. So it wasn't an immediate turnaround as the smaller screw was, but it was doable. We recovered the product and everybody was happy afterwards. So it's a hard lesson to learn to fall into the hydrogen embrittlement trap, however you may fall into it. But I believe that asking the question, can we recover hydrogen embrittlement screws, is a good one to ask. The answer is yes. And then, of course, the next question is, should we? And there's a very simple, I guess, flow chart, if you wanted to call it that, of questions we can ask to decide whether or not that would be a good decision. In many cases, it is a good decision. And I want you to know if you have to make that decision, I can help you make it. There's no charge for that kind of help. It's a quick conversation, and we can get you down the road if you have that kind of a problem. And even if you want me to be involved in the actual recovery process, I can do that as well, either personally or finding you the supplier who can do it for you. Well, now you know something, hopefully, that will help you in the future if you run across a situation with hydrogen embrittlement and you don't want to throw those fasteners away. This has been Carmen Vertullo with the Fastener Training Minute. Thanks for listening.
Hello, this is Christian with Global Fasteners, your leading source for blind rivets, threaded inserts, and tooling solutions. You're listening to the voice of the fastener industry, Fully Threaded Radio.
The topic of artificial intelligence, AI, has been appearing in the headlines everywhere you look over the past year. As we've mentioned thus far on the podcast today, many people realize that we're at a unique point in history, and we'll only begin to realize exactly how and why as things progress, which is taking place at blinding speed. Here to take a closer look at a couple ways AI is already being used within the notoriously behind-the-times fastener industry. We're joined by AFC Industries CEO, the unstoppable Kevin Godin. Thanks for being here, Kevin.
Thanks, Eric. I don't know about unstoppable, and I appreciate that. It's good to be here. Always a pleasure.
Well, you're certainly a thoughtful person, and you're doing a lot in the fastener industry. I know people will be interested to hear your take on a lot of this stuff. And, it's a huge topic. I'm finding that lots of fastener professionals I talk to, aside from hearing about AI in the news and in the media, are playing around with ChatGPT. The idea of how AI actually is being used in our industry today is a little abstract. Are you kind of getting the same idea?
Yeah, I think there's in some ways some confusion about what it is. A lot of people, they're envisioning sort of the Terminator or whatever. And the reality is AI is a phrase or a term that covers a lot of different kinds of technologies, many of which people use every day and just are probably not aware of it.
Right. There's all kinds of applications that people are interfacing as they travel through the online world, for sure. I mean, search, chatbots, various data analysis, whether they're aware of it or not, right? They're contributing to these LLMs, these large language models, right?
That's right. Yep, that is correct. And a lot of other industrial spaces are starting to deploy these, and some folks in our industry are. And so I don't think it's something that is really just abstract at this point. I think it's here, and it's something people really should begin to understand how it connects to their business.
Okay, and again, so this is just a giant topic, and you could take a lot of different cracks at discussing it, but I'll just rewind to a conversation you and I had as we were preparing for this. And you, actually, it was to your previous visit on the podcast as well. And you'd mentioned that you are actually using an AI module in your M&A activities over there at AFC, which is something that you've been in the headlines a lot for. And before we kind of get into the weeds with what AI is, I thought it might be an interesting exercise to explain, without giving away the secret sauce over there at AFC, of course, exactly how would that M&A implementation work for an artificial intelligence tool? I mean, what does it look like? How do you do it? And what are you getting out of it?
Yeah, that's a good question. There are several applications for the technology in the M&A process, primarily because there's a tremendous amount of data analysis that goes on when you're evaluating what a business is worth or what opportunities there'd be to you as you model that business out, right? The idea is you pay a good fair market price for a business that you think you can grow and improve and unlock value in. And so a couple of things, just real tangible examples are the AI bots are able to handle a lot more information analysis, and so spot patterns and things. So, for example, you can use the AI, and we do to evaluate how much potential overlap in product there is. So, everybody has different part numbering systems and so forth, but we have. And it's not perfect, and I think that's something that maybe we can talk about with AI, but it learns as it goes. But we have a pretty good idea by the time we finish diligence how much supply chain overlap in terms of part commonality and standardization opportunity is there. You can analyze pricing trends using the technology, and it can show you opportunities where maybe you're selling a product to 3 or 4 customers, a similar product, and there'd be opportunity to maybe adjust pricing on some of those customers. Maybe you're giving, the company's giving everybody sort of the same price at the the highest volume price point. Things like that. You can go in and analyze the data set and be able to at least project out where you could prioritize your time and opportunities for unlocking value in that business once you own it, places you might want to look to see if you can improve margin, things like that, or inventory management.
Okay, so as we've discussed, and a lot of listeners are probably aware of the basics of what we're talking about when we speak of generative artificial intelligence, GAI. It's the way I think about it, at least, these two main pieces of it, the LLMs, the language models, which are huge libraries that it's stored up and refined over time, right? And then all these algorithms that allow the intelligence, I guess we'll call it, to process all of it, that are known as NLPs, natural language processing algorithms. And I don't want to get too geeky with all this stuff, but when we're talking about the application that you were just describing, this isn't some kind of a shrink wrap tool, is it? I mean, it's not like GPT where people can just go on and start interfacing with a bot, is it? I mean, is that how your people are using it?
No. Well, so with all of these things, they have to be trained, if you will, right? You build the bot, and then it generates an output. And then you correct it. And so it's not a world where there's no human intelligence, right? You're correcting the outputs, and it continues to learn and refines its ability to identify patterns. So the more you use it, the better it gets at what it's doing for that type of AI bot.
Okay, got it. So it's not a shrink wrap kind of a tool. I think that's what people are wondering.
No. I mean, these tools, they're algorithms, right? And so you have to make sure it's like any other tool for the business, right? You have to make sure you're using the right tool for the right application, and the way you use that tool is going to determine how effective the output is. If you just think you're going to buy something out of the box and it's going to be transformative, that's probably not going to be successful. You have to clean your data up. You've got to spend some time with it. and training it essentially. I don't know if that's the technical term for it. It's what I call it, but you have to work with it and refine it and ensure that it's being used the way it's intended to be used by the people who are using it in order for it to have its maximum benefit to you.
And now at the top of the conversation here, you made kind of a joking reference to the Terminator, and you're laughing. I mean, everybody has this idea that there's this looming risk associated with AI. And of course, the biggest one that we think about, I think commonly, is job displacement, certainly in areas like customer service. These chatbots seem to excel in answering just fact type questions, right? And so have you personally seen that this kind of a job displacement has begun already in your area, or when do you expect that?
Yeah, I think there's no question that, early automation technologies, robotics, cobotics, those kinds of things were really targeted at repetitive manual labor. These technologies are going to be targeted at repetitive sort of office administrative type tasks. And so I think there's no question that they will be disruptive. But if you also look at the parallel trend in terms of, labor and recruiting and things, it's an opportunity for people to deploy maybe they're more talented people to more meaningful tasks and automate some of these things. I'll give you an example. We are not doing this yet, but I know businesses who are. You can load all your HR policies and all your benefit plans. You can load all that data into an AI protocol and set up a chatbot that will sit over that, so that all of those sort of basic questions you're talking about that an HR person might have to take time to look up and respond to somebody, that chatbot can handle that, which frees up that HR person then to be able to focus on other higher value activities. I mean, that's already in place. That's already happening. There's people doing that. And so things like that, I think, are going to be increasingly utilized by people, increasingly utilizing AI to do those kinds of tasks.
Absolutely. But we're also told that far more sophisticated kinds of tasks are being taken in hand by AI. I mean, for example, software development. That's mind-boggling for a lot of people to think about software writing its own next steps, its own next versions. And that's not something that you would call really a repetitive kind of a task. Another example, content creation. I mean, being in the podcast business, sort of, we are continuously being bombarded these days with all kinds of offers for content simplification. I mean, they call it streamlining or workflow, but really they're kind of saying, build this framework, plug in a few particulars, we'll bust out these podcasts for you. You don't have to really spend your time behind the mic anymore if you don't want to. Creepy.
Yeah, there are more sophisticated applications. Even marketing content is being developed using AI. We've looked at some of that. There are benefits and limitations to all these things right now in terms of what's available, but a lot of that can be done. And then even on the harder warehouse floor kind of thing. So dynamic slotting, that requires a lot of data analysis currently. AI can really accelerate that and make it better. And that has a massive impact on labor productivity and throughput. Inventory scheduling and release scheduling, order board management. It's sophisticated enough to be able to make what would be, higher order decisions and project out, forecast out, based upon patterns, what is likely to happen. This customer is likely to pull this order in, or this customer is probably not going to take these when they ordered it. It has those capabilities. Again, if you put in the work and deploy it properly, it can do some pretty amazing things.
Oh, 100%. It's amazing when you start reading. Now, out there in the fastener supply chain, have you had any experiences where either suppliers or downstream in the chain, you've been asked to plug into another AI system, or perhaps AFCs offering that to your partners? I mean, anything like that going on?
No, we've not been asked to have bots talk to bots, and as far as I know, we're not we're not looking at that or haven't looked at that on either side of the business. We have looked at some of the sort of interface type of things with regard to technical data and things like that. So we may be exploring those, but in terms of just program to program talking and decision making, no, I haven't seen that yet. I think that will only be a matter of time, though, especially when you're talking about order boards and order optimization. I think eventually that will be here.
I would be surprised if it isn't happening already on a pretty big scale, to tell you the truth. I mean, I can't really point to anywhere that I know of, but it just makes sense to me. And that kind of comes into another one of these potential risk areas, the way I think about it. So we mentioned there a moment ago, job displacement. Another one of the big risks is the bias and fairness issues, as we've seen, say, with ChatGPT. In particular, these have been widely discovered and discussed. For example, views on ranges of scientific and political topics. Some areas are censored, some are clearly supported. So what do you think this says about these tools in their business applications? What do you think when you consider all of the potential for built-in bias?
Well, that's a reality of human interaction, right? That there is bias, there is filtering that goes on, and so you can't run a business without that. Frankly, you have to create a culture, you have to create priorities, and even when you're talking about facts, somebody has to decide when you have contradictory assertions. What criteria are you going to use to accept one and reject another? These technologies are you have to infuse some sort of standards into them, and that's the real question. Whose standards are they going to be?
Right.
And I think for the purposes of some of the kind of applications we've been talking about, that's not necessarily difficult, because within a business, your policies are going to drive what information's available, what folks can do with it. But as it's connected to the internet, and when we're talking about bigger picture AI search capabilities and things like that, those are real serious philosophical and policy questions that I think people we're probably behind the curve in terms of having serious conversations about how that's going to be managed. Within a company setting, you're part of that world, but you have a little more control because you do kind of set the boundaries on what you're going to feed into these things. On the internet, it's a much more open environment, and a lot more people are accessing that.
And objectivity is a theory or an ideal. It doesn't exist in the wild, but especially in the business world, right? You wouldn't want something to be completely objective. AFC Industries is the best, period, right?
That's right.
Not trying to say otherwise, but at the same time, the thing is, we can't really trust the AIs because we don't actually know what they're doing and who they're working for. That's the problem. Maybe at this point we do, but the experience that we've seen thus far proves to us that they're not always operating the way we expect them to. The problem is they do what they're going to do without asking us first in a lot of cases,
Well, that's true. I mean, there's really no such thing as a brute fact when it comes to these things, right? Everything has a context. There's no nuance, there's nuance to things that you don't know whether that's going to be conveyed. For example, with ChatGPT, when it was first released, you could ask it how to commit the perfect crime. It would tell you, right? They had to build ethics into it. And so that's the question: whose ethics, and what are those rules, and who's deciding that? I mean, these are very big, these are very big questions that need to be grappled as we have this very powerful new technology. In terms of the business applications, I think that the biggest question, though, there is going to be, or the biggest thing that I think people need to understand is AI is a broad term that is going to cover a wide variety of tools. And I think if especially a smaller business, is going to be able to be a lot more efficient, in terms of having access to analytics and decision-making capabilities that used to have a large staff that would be required to do that. But you're raising some really good points in terms of, what's the rules, what information goes in, what presuppositions drive what's available to people, what truth are people getting. I don't know that there's an easy, I certainly don't have an easy answer for that. I think I think it remains to be seen how that's going to play out. My confidence level that it's going to be done in a very thoughtful way is probably pretty low, just given the state of discourse amongst people who have to make those decisions. But I think there are still some very practical and helpful uses to the technology that can't be ignored if you're running a business today.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I do believe that, again, while we were warming up for this conversation, you mentioned to me that you felt when you first got involved with AI, you didn't necessarily have a great expectation for it or an understanding of where it would drive you, but you felt like you had no choice but to get involved to stay competitive. Why did you feel that way?
Well, I think when you look at these businesses, fastener distribution businesses or even manufacturing businesses, you have a lot of a good portion of your cost structure is dedicated to teams of people who are analyzing data and making rules-based decisions about the data. So if there's a technology that can enhance that or disrupt that, it's really important that you know what that is and how it's going to affect you. I think of our business in a lot of ways. We're not really selling parts. I mean, obviously we are, and we have to be good at that. But we're managing information for people, right? I mean, we're doing VMI programs for customers who, you cannot shut them down, that you have to have the inventory there at the right time, the right inventory. And, you don't want too much, but you can't have not enough. And all of that is really about managing information. What's happening with the supply chain? What's happening with that customer? What's happening, in terms of the trends in that plant or that line. And so that's a lot of information that our folks manage. And if there are tools that can help us to do that better and more efficiently and more effectively, I think you cannot ignore that.
Well, I refer to you as the unstoppable Kevin Godin at the top of the conversation, and you jumped in because you had no choice. Give listeners an idea. The technology that's called GAI, generative artificial intelligence these days, really didn't launch until later in 2017 when the transformer architecture of Google brought a few pieces together, some research and things they've been doing for many, many years. But AI, as we now know it, was really born then. According to Time, as of January, ChatGPT, as one example, has 100 million monthly users.
Yeah.
So that's how fast it's gone, and you had to get in. You don't want to lose your place.
No, and I think that it's one of those things where we're still in the very early stages of its deployment and adoption. So I think that it's going to continue to evolve, and it's going to continue to show up in places probably that we're not even thinking about right now.
100%. So along with the evolution of AI, AFC Industries is chugging along too, huh? What should we expect to hear from you guys in the near future, Kevin, if you can divulge?
Yeah, well, we continue to focus on organic growth as well as M&A. It's there are a lot of tremendous businesses in the space that are looking for transition plans, and where it adds something to us, whether that's talent or an end market or capability that we can deploy across the platform, we're interested in that. So we will continue to do deals and where they make sense. And I think you'll hear about some more of those down the road. Also, we're also constantly working on the business, trying to create the best distribution company we can for our customers and our employees and our supplier partners and investors. So, I think more of the same. We'll just keep going.
We're speaking with AFC Industries CEO Kevin Godin. Get out to afcind.com to see everything that's going on over there. And I think from what Kevin just said, don't be surprised if you see the website expand a little bit by the next time you go. So as we wind up the conversation, Kevin, I want to throw a little bit of a futuristic question at you. You know, Apple's been touting its Vision Pro augmented reality headset. I don't know if you're really much of an Apple guy beyond the phone, you know, but this is the next generation VR. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I'm not an expert on that, but I have seen that they announced that.
Right. I'm not either. The Meta thing kind of spooks me out. But if it's as capable as advertised in placing users into a realistic reality simulation environment, can you imagine what it means to have technology like that running on a GHIII backbone? The user's guiding his own experiences. So left to their own devices with platforms like these, what kind of real world will people ultimately be simulating for themselves? I mean, can you imagine the possibilities here? Which way is it going to go, up or down?
Well, I tell you, the human heart hasn't changed in, however long we've been here. And so I think there'll be some people who do some fantastic things with it and some people who do some things with it that are regrettable. I know I have enough trouble navigating the real world without having to navigate a world of my own making. So I'm not sure how comfortable I am with that, but I think there are obviously a lot of applications where it could be useful.
Okay. Well, hopefully the big G doesn't mean anything that we don't want it to, and people generate something that we can all live with. That's, I guess, all I have to say. And I think you're right. What they said in Ecclesiastes is going to keep happening, right? 'Twas ever thus.
Yep. Yep. And I guess that would be my last takeaway on the AI stuff for business. That it is both a threat to those of us who are in business in that it's highly disruptive and all the other things you mentioned, but it's also an opportunity. And so, I just encourage people, this is the new world that we're living in. We're better off understanding or having some understanding about what the advantages are and where it makes sense to use it versus not.
Well, Kevin, I sure do appreciate you having this conversation with me today. I think that it's been pretty tight and a little out of step with our typical segment here on Fully Threaded Radio, but I think listeners have been asking for something like this, and they'll come away just a little bit more informed about what's going on. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
That's Kevin Godin, CEO, AFC Industries. We'll be back in a moment to wind up this episode of Fully Threaded Radio.
Are you tired of empty promises from software vendors? Are you paying for support that you're not receiving? Is it time for another paid upgrade? There is a solution. InSequel delivers quality software designed for the fastener industry at an affordable price with industry-leading support. Quality software, affordable pricing, industry-leading support. Only InSequel can deliver all three. www.inxsql.com.
At Worth Industry North America, we know that in today's world, you need a supply chain partner that you can depend on. We provide the products you need to keep your business moving. Data-driven inventory management solutions, industry-leading technology, and the global stability of the Worth Group, combined with an unrelenting commitment to local partnership. Discover superior supply chain security at www.worthindustry.com.
The U.S. Anchor brand has over 45 years of history, providing quality anchoring products sold through various distribution channels. The product range is comprehensive, including light, medium, and heavy-duty offerings, ideal for construction and industrial applications. Our flagship Ultra Wedge Plus Wedge Anchor has obtained the prestigious ICC-ES approval for cracked concrete and uncracked concrete, as well as the Miami-Dade County approval. The state of Florida, city of LA, and state of California have all approved the Ultra Wedge Plus. For more information on U.S. Anchor, visit BrightonBest.com. Tested, tried, and true. We are Brighton Best.
Charlie Kerr from Kerr Lakeside here. You
are listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Well, Brian, we meant to front load this episode with a lot more talk about artificial intelligence than we wound up doing. So might have been a little out of sequence, that conversation with Kevin Godin, but I think that was absolutely fascinating bit of perspective from the CEO of AFC Industries. What do you think?
Oh, I think it was.
Now, the controversy surrounding AI, of course, is ongoing, and we don't want to overshadow the many, many wondrous things, the possibilities that are out there with AI. I mean, let's face it, there are a lot of things that we're all taking for granted, I think, or I personally do, let's say it that way, in the capabilities that the technology affords everyone. But at the same time, a lot of people are really questioning what we're doing in terms of letting a genie out of a bottle, so to speak. And a lot of folks heard that earlier this year, it was back in March, Bri, that a group of AI professionals signed an open letter. It was really to the world, but it was stating that they thought that things might be getting a little out of hand. You know what I'm talking about with this open letter, don't you?
Yeah, no, I do. And I agree with them to a degree. Now, if you were to listen to the podcast interview with Mark Zuckerberg, he would indicate that we're ways off, which I sort of think, except some parts have been sort of advanced rather quickly. And my problem with it is not the use of AI to create amazing photographs and things like that, or the fact that you even now can ask it to write code for programs, which is pretty amazing. It's the fact that you can also ask it to write an essay, and enterprising young students have been able to do that. It's very hard to tell, is it written by a human even now? This is the problem. And it worries me that we've provided a capability that will allow students to be able to graduate from the college without actually being able to write properly. I mean, we've already allowed them to graduate from high school without being able to speak properly. And I think this is a bad thing.
Right. Well, it's definitely one of the risks that we've got. And when people can take shortcuts, they certainly will. I mean, look at anabolics in sports, is just one example of that.
Oh, yeah, true. I mean, the desire to get better, and this is one of the ways you can get really good. And it's another way you can pass an exam that you wouldn't otherwise be able to pass. People will do those things.
Right. And that's an idea that I think people are kicking around quite a bit. I think the idea of having a moratorium on AI research, though, until we can get our arms around some guidelines is a little bit deeper than that, though. Folks, you can get out to futureoflife.org to see the letter that was in the news. I don't think many people have read it. It's not very long. I'm going to read the introductory paragraph here. And again, this came out in March, and it gives just a hint about how grave these people believe that things might be unless we take a step back and stop. Not that I believe they think it's really going to happen. I don't think anybody really believes it, but they put their marker down that we're at risk here. Mm-hmm. The open letter begins, AI systems with human competitive intelligence can pose profound risks to society and humanity, as shown by extensive research and acknowledged by top AI labs. As stated in the widely endorsed Asilomar AI principles, advanced AI could represent a profound change in the history of life on Earth and should be planned for and managed with commensurate care and resources. Unfortunately, this level of planning and management is not happening, even though recent months have seen AI labs locked in an out-of-control race to develop and deploy ever more powerful digital minds that no one, not even their creators, can understand, predict, or reliably control. So that's how the letter begins. Again, it's not too long. It's available at futureoflife.org. And when I was hinting around the edges with Kevin Godin to see what he thought about some of the risks, we weren't really getting into the deeper stuff either, but we all kind of have this just vaguely sick feeling like something may be right on the verge of getting out of control, but we all see that nobody's going to stop going in this direction. I think That's the quandary.
Yes. I when the OpenAI was first released, really just a short time ago, where you could actually sign up to use it, I did that, and I started questioning it about something that I studied a lot, which was one section of World War II, and it was to do with the British Air Force, Royal Air Force. But the knowledge was really missing. Now, it may have known a lot about the US Air Force. It certainly did not know much about parts of World War II. Now, if this is the great database behind the OpenAI, then it was missing huge sections. Then came GPT-4, which has supposedly fixed many of those things. And I used it to look up something to see, could I get help from the OpenAI using really ChatGPT-4 to find out what the difference between some of the different coatings that are applied to particularly concrete screws, subject I discussed with Carmen, actually. And it really did help me work out something I could not look up on the web. I couldn't find it on the web. There's about 20 or 30 different proprietary names, and they all break down to like 3 different types. They all do the same job. So I did actually get some use out of it. Now, I still have the problem of someone trying to sneak through a passing grade at school based on an essay that was completely manufactured for them.
And in the process of doing all of that research using ChatGPT, probably plugged a lot of that into your work on the scrubber, which in actuality is an LLM, which folds into the whole idea of the FCH scrubber being just another implementation of an AI concept. It's everywhere, Bri.
Right. You can't put the genie back in the bottle.
No, I think everybody's really recognizing that. Well, it's certainly, I think, recognized by Kevin Godin, and we'd like to thank him for participating in the conversation today. He's certainly a heavyweight in the fastener industry and a very thoughtful person. Also like to thank Jake Davis of BTM Manufacturing, along with Dan Smith of Elios Coffee. Keep up the good work, gentlemen. Tim Roberto Jr. of the great Star Stainless joined Mike McNulty today on the Fastener News Report. Bob GQ Baer and GHIII of Brighton Best gave us a little bit of a last-minute pitch for the mud race. Come on, folks, you can do it. Sign it up. It's going to be a blast this year.
Yes.
And, of course, Fastener Professional of the Year, Carmen Vertullo, had the Fastener Training Minute for us. Thank you, sir, for number 100.
All right.
The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Brighton Best International, Tested, Tried, True, Brighton Best, Global Fasteners, Quality the First Time, Star Stainless Screw, right off the shelf, it's Star. Fully Threaded is also sponsored by Buckeye Fasteners, BTM Manufacturing, Eurolink Fastener Supply Service, Fastener Technology International, InSequel Software, J. Lanfranco, Parker Fasteners, Solution Industries, 3Q Inc., Volt Industrial Plastics, and Worth Industry North America. Really appreciate all our partners who help us bring this podcast to you. Nothing artificial about that.
Yeah, that intelligence.
The email address is ftr@fullythreaded.com. Fire away. We'll have Jim Degnan of the NFDA and S.W. Anderson on the next episode. I also got wind that we may have a new executive director for the MWFA to be named. As many of you know, Nancy Rich, the legend of the Midwest, will be retiring at the end of this year. Who will be stepping in? Perhaps next episode we'll be able to make that announcement too.
Cool. Okay.
Sure hope you'll join us, everybody. Meanwhile, Bri, we got to get out to Shagbark. There's a lot of work to do. We got hungry chickens to feed.
Oh, really? Okay.
And we've got fastener data to scrub.
Yeah, I do.
And fasteners to help people find. We hope you found this episode of the podcast entertaining, informative, and moderately intelligent.
Yeah, the I without the A.
That'll put this one in the can. For Brian Musker, this is Eric Dudas. Get out there, sell some screws, and we'll talk to you next time.
Right.
Fully Threaded Radio is a production of Fastener's Clearinghouse. Music provided by Audionautics.
I'm here with Mike McNulty, and we're here at the Fastener Fair 2023. And I was listening to the last show of Fully Threaded on our drive down. And your Zen must be really good because there was no back page report. What was that about?
Oh, there was a back page.
There wasn't a back page report?
Yeah.
What was
it?
it?
Was on Fastener Taiwan 2023. So if it's not on the recording, then Eric cut it off.
Oh, shit.
But in the beginning, he...
All right, there was no rant at the end.
Right. I couldn't decide what to rant about, so I didn't rant.
Okay. I thought maybe you had Zen and everything was peaceful and united.
I was ranting about robots or chatbots or artificial intelligence, and I decided to save it for the next time.
Okay. All right,
so
Mike.
Stay tuned.
All right. I thought,
the show, and I don't see any robots here, so I think we're safe for a few more years.
Oh, okay. All right. Our chat box, is that what it is? Chat, yeah. All right.
I haven't come across any chatbots or robots.
All right, so your Zen is good.
So my Zen is good.
All right, good.